Hello, everybody. So, in the last few weeks, I've been thinking a lot about British democracy, so called, and about how to reform the British political system to better represent national interests and national principles, and to better represent the people of Britain, as opposed to the sort of system that we have at the moment, which is in essence a two-party democracy, although there are more political parties than that. It turns out in practice to be a two-party system, and this is a two-party system that has a very, very long history, dating back to, I'd have said, sort of the mid 17th century or so, with the emergence of the Tory party and the Whig party, i.e. the old British Liberal Party. And now we have two major political parties in the United Kingdom, which are the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, and we also have a party called the Liberal Democrats. Which is our third largest political party. So, in terms of British democracy, it's a very sort of old, creaking, weird institution with all sorts of subtleties and rather recondite, rather arcane bits of tradition and protocol and you know stuff associated with it. And one thing that got me thinking about sort of Parliament, for instance, and we have two basic units of Parliament, which is, well, two units of Parliament, really two chambers of a bicameral system here. We've got the House of Commons, which is the part of Parliament that we, the people, vote for. We vote for our MP in elections. Our MP may be one of any of the political parties who've put a candidate up for election in our constituency. Then there's the House of Lords, who we do not choose. And this is crucial, and will become more crucial later on, since the only way of getting a peerage, the only way of becoming a lord in the United Kingdom, is to get yourself on the Queen's Honours list. And all the lords in the House of Lords are selected by the monarch. And that's roughly how it breaks down. And the membership of the House of Lords can be influenced to some extent by members of the House of Commons. The Lords themselves, these people have the power to vote down any act of Parliament that's passed through the House of Commons. And that it needs to get then through the House of Lords before it can finally be put before the monarch, who gives royal assent to the piece of legislation. So really what we may be facing here is something like democracy in a very superficial sense. Really, like, not that all that democratic at all, frankly, since there's this incredibly powerful body, the House of Lords, who we do not vote for, who is allowed to veto, in essence, any piece of legislation that is presented to it. And in the House of Commons, we have like a very sort of bit of arcane, old, traditional stuff. For instance, like the division bell, which is a part of the House of Commons structure and the structure of its tradition. And this signifies, I think, the inherently divisive nature of the House of Commons is two rows of benches, in essence, and you've got the old green leather-coated benches, right? And the party who's in power sits on the right of the speaker. The party who's in the opposition sits on the left of the speaker. And I'm pretty certain this is actually where we get notions of left and right wing, though I've also been told that it comes down to the initial assemblies in France to some extent during and after the revolution, but it seems like that may have been like a concept borrowed from French democratization and put into British politics, and that's how we interpreted it, like it's how the House of Commons works, sort of. So yes, British politics. The British political system is inherently divisive. I got this great quote from Julius Caesar, don't we? Divide and rule. Is and we also suspect this, I think, about the House of Commons. Like, to what extent is the House of Commons really just a big distraction from, and it's just we got these targets that the media loves putting out in front of us, and we love to hate. If we're a conservative, we love to hate the Labour Party. If we're a Labour person, we yell Tory scum and hate the Tories, and and we just bounce between the two. Like, oh, it's Labour this year, oh, it's Conservative next year, oh, it's Labour again, Labour Conservative, Labour Conservative, and nothing ever really changes. And like, it's like, I think again also about Isaac Newton, who was I think a Conservative MP, no, he's a Liberal MP, sorry, excuse me, in the House of Commons at one point, who the only thing he would attend all the meetings, I think, in the House of Commons, all the sessions, yet he was like absolutely nothing, except on one occasion he said something, which was this: like, would you mind opening that window? And indeed, they opened the window for him. And I think, like, maybe the point of that gesture or that statement was something like, well, you can at least do that. Like, you can actually do something. And yeah, and who's the House of Lords comprised of? Have Lords Temporal and Lords Spiritual. Those are the basic divisions between the Lords. Lords Spiritual, those account for, I think, like, is it 3% of the Lords? But given the fact that there's 500 members of the House of Lords, that's 27 or 26, is it? Lords Spiritual, and these Lords Spiritual, these are comprised exclusively of Anglican bishops, exclusively of bishops of the realm. So, like, one idea I had recently in terms of pushing for reform of the House of Lords is say, we need more Lords Spiritual. We need people in there representing the 3.3 million Muslims, for instance, in the United Kingdom. So we need imams in the House of Lords as well to be among the Lords Spiritual. And I see no reason why that's not an appropriate and decent gesture to have Islam represented in our House of Lords, right? But mostly, I think we need an elected House of Lords, certainly. Yeah, and to begin putting greater and greater amounts of pressure on the monarchy as the people of Britain, and to say, no, you need to follow democratic processes and acquiesce to the demands of the people, more like, and not shield, yourself using this instrument that they, in essence, forge, this House of Lords, the membership of whom is determined, all of it, by the monarchy, all by the honours list, except for the Lord Spiritual, who, as I understand it, may sort of come more down to, like, their positions of rank in the Church of England, high-ranking bishops and so on. And it's more like an ecumenical matter. But that is a relatively small part of how the House of Lords functions, granted. And you've got, like, law lords in the House of Lords often, judges, or like high-ranking judges in the House of Lords. Then they get like Alan Sugar, like notable public figures get in there sometimes, and various other sort of notable people, members of the establishment, get into the House of Lords, right? But no, it should be a totally elected body. I suspect, a body elected by the people, not by the monarch. Since I think it serves as little more than an antiquated, creaking barrier to progress, and something that stands in the way of progressive politics, and a bulwark of the old interests of the aristocracy, the monarchy, and the establishment, and it should be done away with. But then again, like, no one listens to me, do they? Even when I like completely dismantle the argument from like methane emissions and cows and so on, ostensibly contributing to the greenhouse effect, because it obviously wouldn't. Like no one cares about like what no one wants to be like to realize they've been hoodwinked, or like at most like in the effort to remain within like their own impression of their own intelligence, or like you know to satisfy that I got a martini on the go. Oh yeah, haha. Not brilliant. This actually, I got the wrong gin. I got Tanqueray export strength. The one that's good for gin apparently is Tanqueray number 10. Sorry, for martinis, Tanqueray number 10. Apparently that makes quite a good martini. And it really should have Nwali Pratt in it also. Not the cheap Morrison's vermouth. But beggars can't be choosers. Like, one is in Westbury, so one suffices with what Morrison's and Westbury has, right? I'm not going to do this again. I've not enjoyed either martini I've had today. I'm drinking like Winston Bloody Churchill, aren't I? Awful. I've had one earlier and a little sleep, because one does after a martini, let's face it. And one again now, which this is dangerous. This is a lot of gin, certainly, but I think it's a very elegant cocktail, and it's good to have gin around because you can make a Negroni if you pick up the Campari and red vermouth, which is actually a cocktail I prefer, I think, to a martini. I do like a martini also. It's rather a nice drink. So. Stuck some olives in it to dirty up my martini. Eating the olives now, but not as dirty as I'd like it to be. Let's give it like that sort of salt water look. But yes, that's the basic point of this video. British democracy is fucked. We need to reform the House of Lords to actually make progress and make political change a reality. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye bye. Love you guys.